what it is best to do.
Right.
So, where we are at the moment is, having had that cycle and quite a lot of blastocysts, although there was the whole business of the endometrium and the bleeding and all of those difficult things, nonetheless, they did get quite a lot of blastocysts.
Right.
Now, when we look at your DNA fragmentation, the first and most important thing to say is that it is certainly not a showstopper.
Right.
So that's quite important. At a headline average score, because the headline average score tells you fundamentally whether you are in a zone in which having a baby is possible.
Right.
And this says that you are.
Okay. Right.
Because the way the sperm are divided up in the DNA fragmentation test is into good quality sperm, intermediate quality sperm, and poor quality sperm.
Right.
Okay, fine. So there are 3 categories of sperm that all men produce. Now, if you have the predominant sperm category as bad, then 2 things happen. The first is that you don't get blastocysts.
Right.
And the second is that you then don't get pregnancies and live births.
Right.
Okay?
So
now that is not where you are.
Because we made the blastocysts.
Yeah. So your the categories of sperm for you are not too bad in the bad category.
Right.
Not good enough in the good category to get a natural pregnancy.
Right.
But in the intermediate zone to succeed, because the vast majority of your sperm are in the intermediate category.
Right.
So when you get this report, you'll see that 2/3 of the sperm, 64%, are in that intermediate category. 1/4 of them are in the good category, and 1/10 of them are in the bad category. Okay? So you're in the sort of no man's land where ICSI will succeed,
right,
provided they either choose one of the 25% good ones, or they pick up one of the majority, which are the intermediate quality, and for them to those sperm to produce a baby, then the egg has to compensate for those intermediate sperm.
Right.
So that's why you got all those blastocysts. And it may well be that of the frozen blastocysts, the egg has fixed the slightly wonky sperm. Of course, we don't know that until one of them is put back and it succeeds, which it may well. So the message from this fragmentation as we sit here now is that it isn't a showstopper, because you might, unbeknownst to you at the moment, have got one of those blastocysts that's going to turn into a little baby.
Right, right.
So this isn't saying that the whole thing so far is a bust.
Right.
Right. The next thing it's saying is that, seeing as this pattern of sperm is not something that is unchangeable,
right,
this is not the way that Paul was born,
right,
but it says that if you have a big varicocele with this sort of DNA fragmentation, this is exactly the situation in which fixing the varicocele will improve the fertility.
right.
Okay, so message number 1, this is not a bust. This is not nearly as bad as it might have been, because what it might have said was that actually the majority of your sperm were bad.
Right.
And therefore we were in a difficult situation.
Right.
But it's not saying that. It's saying, number 1, one of those blastocysts, or even 2 of them, might work.
Right.
But it's also saying this is the sort of thing that can be corrected by treating the varicocele. So what we've got to think about is what is the best way of actually playing this? How is it best to proceed? And that's a bit difficult.
Right.
Because, of course, we don't know the fate or otherwise of those blastocysts that you have got.
Right.
Now, if money were no object, I would say, well, let's fix the varicocele anyway.
Yeah.
Because it's probably is 80% going to make you more fertile. And we'll then think about how best to use the blastocysts and whether we're going to do another cycle with better sperm.
Yeah.
Of course, if we fix the varicocele, it'll make Paul more fertile for nature to take its course.
Yeah.
So there are reasons to do it sort of anyway. The only problem with the wretched varicocele is that it's another 7,000 pounds.
Yeah.
Which is sort of the theme. Remind me, Nicole, how old are you?
I'll be 38 in January.
Well, that does sort of slightly skew it, because one thinks, well, we haven't got endless time.
Yeah.
What do you two think?
I think you go.
No, go on. You're asking for it.
No. It's your body.
Yeah.
Well, it's your body.
I would like to get it done, but money is going to be the issue there. But I do think that, that I've said to you, didn't I, before this? I was like, if it comes back that he's going to need doing, I would like to get it done.
Yeah.
But it's probably not going to be anytime soon.
I think as I'm the one that's kind of been like not quite organized with all of this, but having to do it. And I think I'm quite analytical. I think the answer moving forward is, if I've understood you correctly, Dr. Ramsay, is his result isn't good enough to get pregnant naturally, most likely. And ICSI would have mitigated part of the problem because it put the sperm right in the egg, and be it that it made blastocysts, the egg probably compensated for the damage of the DNA. And now we're just basically playing, we're gambling with each embryo if it works or doesn't work, correct?
Yep.
Right? So I think what would make the most sense is, be it that we have those 4 embryos, just to gamble with those embryos that are left, and hopefully they result. And then in the meanwhile, we come up with the money to do the procedure down the line. But it has to be an active effort, because I'm getting old.
I couldn't have put it better myself.
Yeah, well done.
Thank you.
We've got a bit of time here.
Yeah.
Because we do have 4 blastocysts.
Right.
We know that of those blastocysts, one was clearly never going to work because it didn't even implant.
Yeah.
Now, of course, that could have been that was a good one, but the lining of the womb was not up to it.
Yeah.
So we know we got a chemical pregnancy. Now, actually, chemical pregnancies should not be looked at quite so negatively.
Right.
Because what they mean is that the lining of the womb, the endometrium, can recognize a wonky embryo.
Right.
So this is nature's way of saying, in your case, I suspect, this egg didn't quite make up for the sperm.
Right.
And therefore, we don't want this embryo. It's a chemical pregnancy.
Right.